go through the forms that I sent out yesterday, and I think I sent them out before, but just in case, um, there's two forms that you'll see. Let me present my screen here so you can see things, 'cause otherwise you can't see it. Um, all right, so the email I sent out yesterday has a buyer and a seller form. We'll keep it real simple.
Okay.
The buyer form, and when you get in the CRM, because you're using the other one, batch leads. If you want to live this in batch leads and we'll just move them over as a bulk, that's
Okay.
fine. I don't care. But these are the kinds of questions you want to know. So like if you don't want to all if you don't want to do batch leads and then also do this, that's fine. We'll simply port them over. There is a way to bridge the two, but I'm not addressing that today. We're growing into that over the next couple months. But so basically, team first name. Basically, team is you. Who's the agent? Who's the person entering the stuff? So you'll always get credit for this buyer. As I said, eventually, like you bringing a buyer to your deals is great. That's wonderful. But eventually, it's going to be set up, and probably by the end of, I mean, I'm hoping by the end of third quarter, but probably by the end of the year, where if your buyer buys something from someone else, you'll still get a couple $100 from each sale for having brought the buyer. So
Gotcha.
that's why identifying who brought in the buyer. Now, there's a public link that I can give you, or I will give you actually while I'm thinking of it. There's a public version of this that doesn't include the team name, or you can send this to your buyer. Nothing stops your buyer from filling this crap out himself, but whichever. Buyer first name, buyer last name, buyer company name, phone, email, Facebook, LinkedIn. How do we reach the guy? What counties, if they're in Pennsylvania? I'm not messing with counties state nationwide yet, but eventually possibly. What states? And as we grow into states, what will happen is you're going to select the state first, and then it'll pop out the counties.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, since we've been PA focused for the whole time, it's kind of upside down. So this lets them pick where they want to look. What are they looking for? Describe what they're looking for. Minimum price, maximum price. Now, interestingly enough, we are not legally allowed to ask them for their phone, or actually, I should actually take the email is borderline whether it's legal, but we just have to explain to people if you don't give us a way to reach you, how do we send you deals?
Right.
So that's why phone's not a required. Email is, but I think they might have to take that off. They're changing the law again. But it makes no sense why we can't require phone and email because how do we reach them if we can't get their contact information? Why would anyone fill out the form if they didn't want to be reached?
Right.
What they're trying to do is avoid non opt in. And then down the bottom, which the public form actually has to be phrased slightly differently, but down the bottom is they're opting in. And they're also describing what kind of property type they want: self storage, multifamily, mixed use, commercial. So, really, it gives us a snapshot of what it is they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Now, probably initially they're going to get everything we get because we're growing into this and we're not going to filter it by matchups. But eventually, what will happen is when a new deal comes in, and again, probably by in October, November, when a new deal comes in, it'll compare it against the list of deals we have. And if it matches, I'm sorry, when a new deal, a new seller comes in, it'll compare against the list of buyers we have. And if it matches something, it'll pop out to the buyers. So they'll get it before we even, as soon as we have it contracted, as soon as it has signed seller paperwork,
Mm-hmm.
that's when it will do that search. So your guy will get it before it even gets an advertisement made.
Gotcha.
Reversing that, every time a new buyer is put in, it'll search. And of course, we have a very small database of deals right now, but it'll search the number of deals available. And this is that whole business in a box thing I was telling you yesterday. The more people using our software, the more cross matches we can get.
Gotcha.
Um, so that's that one. And then the seller one is really the same kind of damn thing, except property type. Are there other sellers besides the named person, partners, whatever?
Mm-hmm.
Email, phone number, when do they need the money? Now, this doesn't have to be a date, obviously. What we're really asking here is, are they how motivated are they? It's like, oh my God, right away. And this might even change to be a drop down of as soon as humanly possible to if I see the right price, because that's your gamut is get this thing out of my life to that guy down in Arizona who frankly doesn't care.
Mm.
And by the way, I'm going to get his agreement out today. Property nickname. So Superman, I'll take care of that. Basically, there's me as the director, Ryan for wholesale residential, or for wholesale as the Superman, and then you as the agent. I don't know why we call it Superman, but whatever. It's like the manager guy. And eventually, when you get your team, you become that and whatever. And the developer is kind of getting rid of some redundancies in here. I don't want to take him away because I don't want to screw up what she has in the back office. But property address, city, county chooser, again for Pennsylvania, zip, state chooser, whatever. How many units? Single, duplex, whatever. This isn't aimed at how many self-storage units. It's aimed at how many residential units it is.
Okay.
Select self-storage, the units don't really matter because you're not going to find your choice here. That's why it says storage facility, MHP, because you're dealing in hundreds of units, and it's just that wouldn't be a number here. Why are you looking to sell? Describe the condition, current mortgage, seller financing. Seller financing is not a sales pitch for us. It's, hey, if, and this is not even an important question, and this can be revisited many times.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to get all these questions from them the first time around, and you're not going to ask them in this order anyway. So it's like every time you revisit this form, it's going to connect. It should connect it with the old form as long as you put in the identical address. So, do you live there? Yes, no. Ask price, whatever. Repair estimate. This is your estimate based on what they tell you.
Okay.
They accept the terms and conditions. Are there tenants or income? Income, annual total, other income, legal, blah, blah, blah. Is it MLS listed? This really is going to eventually become one of the first questions because if it's listed, we're kind of done because they already have it listed with an agent. We can be a buyer's agent or we can be nobody. It's really all we can be.
Okay.
So pretty much it's almost a go, no go kind of reflection. And there's going to be people in the mix who say, well, it is, but I don't like the agent. Okay, well, when you cancel with the agent, call us back. Or it is, but I'm promoting it for the agent. Okay, great. We'll give me the MLS number. We'll look it up. And if we care, we'll call. But we have no negotiation room. Or like one I visited a couple weeks ago, no, it's not. What was listed
Sorry. Somebody was
listed was Dorrance Street. He said it was West Dorrance Street, which is physically the same damn building.
Mm-hmm.
And I get there, and he's like, well, it's not listed because I told the agent to cancel it. I said, did you get assigned? No, I didn't. Okay, well, then it's listed. Goodbye. Thanks for lying to me. Please don't call me again.
Right.
Is it advertised? Zillow, That's a warning sign, but not a necessarily no. It's a warning sign because, like I've told a couple people, I think I told you, which is if they're asking for 50 and it's worth to the end, and our math tells us it's worth to the end buyer, something under 50 probably, but 50.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have to get him for a super sacrifice price, like 20, in order to be able to bring it back to the market at a number. Because if we sign it up with him at, let's say, 40, and we put it back on the market at 50, well, everybody's already seen it at 50.
Right.
We're not no one's going to care. And if it's advertised at 50, we got to assume they got 40. We got to assume they got, some other offer. So if it's already advertised is a yellow light. It used to be back 2012, 2014,
Mm-hmm.
that, and we're probably headed back there where it was such a buyer's market that it didn't matter if it was advertised. Like you almost went to the MLS to find wholesales. Actually, I did that quite a few times before I was licensed. But now, if it's been advertised, the world's already seen it. So we have to really get it as super sacrifice price. Or, I think it's happened twice in the last 8 years that someone bought something for us for more than it was advertised on Facebook by the buyer, by the seller themselves. So it's just a red flag. Bathroom era, like that. Follow-up notes, kitchen era, same thing. Cosmetics era. And these eras, first of all, they're just kind of, people say, well, when did you renovate it? Well, a little while ago. Who was president? Reagan. Okay, maybe not a little while ago. But these also will figure into the automatic calculator that we're building. So it'll say, oh, modern means a 15% renovation. 2000s or newer means a 25% renovation, blah, 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 whatever. Roof age, like that, baths, beds, and this is what I was saying to you yesterday, water source, wastewater, number of units. Describe what works and doesn't. You literally, and you're not doing this on the phone with them, but this is what you're going through. Is there a mortgage? Like I said, some of these are redundant. If you answered it once, don't answer it again, whatever. Is this an estate? Timeline to sell. And this is where you jump in. Google link, Zillow link, Gmaps, other link, ARV. Why do you think this ARV? Link to drive pics if there is such a thing, Google Drive or whatever. And then another opt-in. So this is where you're collecting pretty much everything we need to know. And then we can all process it from there. So this is just sort of getting it in the system and raising its hand. Now, again, if you do it because you're working in batch leads, then do it in batch leads, and then we'll just move it over. Don't care. But this goes into the Zoho system and whatever, which we'll talk about separately. So that's really how you get stuff in the system, so we can look at it. And again, if it's in batch leads, you just send me a link to the batch leads. What we're trying to get away from is, you send a message on the group text, and this isn't your fault, this is our system, and then it gets lost or it gets forgotten about, or, somehow it's not the group text, it's a text to Ryan, it's just a text to me. And then we're all kind of looking at each other like, okay, well, I didn't get that. Whereas with this, it's, you take this form and say, hey guys, there's a new form on this property in the system, then at least we all know by text, hey, look here. You can cut and paste the information over into the text, that's great. But this also makes sure that it starts in the pipeline going down the line, because this will be initial contact, initial information collection.
Okay.
It has its little set of things that it does, reminding us to do things, and so on and so forth. And then kind of goes on from there. And I just remember my CRM developer had a question for me, so I just want to jump in here real quick. So anyway, so that's one of the things I wanted to show today. It was just real quick, sort of, hey, this is where, when you get a lead, like to keep saying, if you're doing it in batch leads, it's the same questions. You can keep this up and say, oh, these are the questions I need. We can also set these questions up in batch leads, but pretty much you want a comprehensive idea. Now, I need to get one. Okay, so she has a deliverable for me to look at. Okay, fine. I need to build one for land, and actually, Eric contacted me about land. Let me see what he said to me. There I am. Okay, so right, that's what I want to do. Is I want to give you this PDF. I'm going to email it over to everybody, but specifically to you. So I want to make sure that so this is actually the training on the Land OS that we've been talking about. He's finally kind of doing that. Mm-hmm. So I'll bring you in on that, and I haven't even actually looked at it too much, but basically we'll pull it up together so we can look at it real quick. The RE Hustle Companion. He's really kind of upgrading his naming system a little bit better. So this is the companion to the Land OS software that he's building out, which is a whole different thing. But basically, this is one of the softwares that we bought into through his package to really help manage land. And as you can see, it's just an override on ChatGPT. I mean, I'm not putting it down, but that's how he built it, basically. Yeah. be built as an override. And he has weekly meetings, and I forget when they are. There's weekly or bi-weekly meetings which he's going to be scheduling, and okay, he didn't put the date in here, but that's also coming. So I'll have you in on those meetings. Also in on those meetings with. Eventually, I'm going to find a way to fold you into the self-storage ones. I have to do those a little bit differently, and this is for anybody who wants to be involved in self-storage. I do those a little differently because I can't have. What I might end up doing is telling you guys when they are, and I'll rebroadcast them here, because that mentorship is very careful about, does the person who's attending match the person who's on our account?
Mm-hmm.
So I can rebroadcast it so you guys can listen, but I can't necessarily have Scott see names he doesn't recognize. That particular mentorship cost $130,000 that I split with a few other people, so he's a little more careful. Eric's mentorship was still pretty pricey, or Eric's software rather was still pretty pricey, but it wasn't that bad. So anyway, so basically we have access to the Land OS, or the Land Companion along with the Land OS.
Okay.
And we have access to working on that as well. All right, so that's kind of one of the things I wanted to kind of cover today was that.
Okay.
And then the other thing, aiming a little bit toward the licensed people, which is really where you're headed as well, is one of the best methodologies to becoming, well, one of the best ways. So as a licensed agent, if you're a wholesaler, things that are advertised really are not helpful to you, basically, because they're already out there and we're trying to get them at a discount price. As an agent, which means for sale by owner, is really not that helpful because they're out there on their own already getting calls or not getting calls. And whether or not they'll take a sacrifice price, coin toss. However, as an agent, we're not looking for sacrifice price. We're looking for people who want to get less work involved in their closings, in their marketing. They don't want to handle the calls from buyers anymore. Or they want the most money, and they're willing to, and there's a commission involved. So instead of trying to get them if we can sell it for 100, trying to get it for 90, we'll sell it for 100 and take 6%, basically. So we are open to for sale by owners as agents. We kind of are as wholesalers, but definitely as agents.
I will keep that in mind.
And then expired listings, and this is where networking with, even before you're licensed, networking with local agents, or working with us on getting expired listings. Long way of saying getting expired listings, because expired listings are the one category of listings where it's worth going after something another agent has had. There's active, which means we're showing the house. There's pending, which means a contract is in place. There's withdrawn, which means realtor pulled it back for some reason. Something ain't right, but it's still under control. There's canceled. Doesn't happen a lot, but that means no one's under control. Is that the seller changed their mind? Is that the seller hated the agent hated the seller, but there's no current contract. So you can go after canceled. But The really interesting one is expired, because expired is the contract ran out of time. And if you get to them quick enough on expireds, before they relist with somebody else, they might still be interested in listing, or they might even be open to a counter offer. So the only thing you know on expired is they wanted, at some point fairly recently, to sell. Now, there's a whole process to that. I'll cover it with you, but basically, if you can pick up expired listings in a certain market and you can get to them first, they might wholesale. They might be so sick of it and they're like, oh, screw it, the agent was a jerk and I couldn't get my number and I just want to get rid of the damn house. Or it might be, if you're licensed, hey, we'll pick it back up. So expired listings are a great source for both wholesalers and licensees. Whereas for sale by owners is first source of business opportunity. That's what the acronym means for agents. So those are, so what you can do is we can send you some expired stuff here, because it's all based on what MLS you're a member of. We can network with agents down there. You can whatever. But basically, expireds, expireds and FSBOs are ways to pick up business. And the last thing is, and then I'll to entertain whatever questions you have, but is Oneonta, New York self-storage, which, so I got a listing for a self-storage in Oneonta, meaning from a listing agent said, here, I have this in Oneonta, do you want to buy it?
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't like the numbers on that particular deal. Just, and I'm fairly picky. However, what I discovered, and this is not, I'm pointing you to Oneonta, but just in general, when looking at the category known as self-storage, what I discovered was, okay, so Oneonta has some good self-storage numbers. They've got reasonably good income. They're kind of a center with a couple colleges. I mean, they're kind of a very tertiary market, but the numbers look interesting. Not a lot of supply. And I'm not looking to necessarily build, but it's okay. But what I also noticed is, and I'm just randomly picking, like, this is the best, this is a good website. Don't get me wrong. This is a good website for self-storage. But a lot of the self-storages that I came across in Oneonta, and of course they're not going to come up now, had very crappy websites or no web presence whatsoever. Like this one. How do I interact with this website?
Right.
Rent here, I can't find out rates, I can't do anything. So this is not a well-run facility, because a well-run facility will have things like I can rent, I can do rates, I can do whatever. Some of them didn't even have websites. So what you could do in a market like this, does not have to be on Oneonta, is you could simply call, like this one doesn't have a website. There's no website. You could just call them up and say, hey, I'm self-storage buyer, yada, yada. Ask them questions about the facility, learn about them, build a relationship. Hey, would you guys be willing to consider selling? Could we have a conversation? Could be this, could be that. The other thing you can do in self-storage is, okay, so this is a bad example because this particular self-storage doesn't look like a self-storage. You know what I mean by look like self-storage, those lines of narrow buildings. But you can fly over a market,
Mm-hmm.
and this depends how bored you are, but you can fly over a market and look for lines of buildings that look like self-storage. Or look, first of all, you're doing two things here at the same time. You're doing virtual driving for dollars. If you're flying over residential, you're looking for overgrown. You're looking for whatever. Now, I gotta tell you, what I'm seeing here tells me Oneonta is a pretty good little town. I don't see a lot of overgrown. I don't see a lot of ugly. But if I did see an overgrown house, then I go and try to get the address and figure out who the owner is and skip trace and whatever. But if I fly over, of course, I won't come across one now, but I fly over and I see something that looks like a self-storage facility. And if it doesn't have a Google Doc, that means they're not on Google. That means they're poorly run. If you're right here, the perfect example is right here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this guy doesn't even claim his, so Google knows about him, but not because he told them about it. So this guy is not running it to a maximum level. Some places you will, and this is totally, whatever, random, I guess, you will come across and there won't be one of these dots. It will just be a set of buildings with no identifier, kind of like this, but this is probably part of the hospital. But this looks like a self-storage facility. Oh, it's on the corner of Norton Avenue, whatever. So now let's find out who owns that and call them. So this is another way to look for, it's kind of like virtual driving for dollars for self-storage. Whether they're simply poorly run, whether they're simply maybe abandoned, fairly rare in self-storage, but could be. There's a lot of what could it be of why is it like that. But at the same time, All I'm saying is this is another way to approach it. And I'm not pointing you to go do this. I'm saying this is just another angle of business. And I'm not saying owning on is phenomenal. It just happened to be that the market at first glance, 20-minute glance, looked nice. But
Right.
particularly people didn't. So like, and then I started seeing a lot of them in this area not having, you know, any kind of River Street self storage, not even claimed, you know, like that. And if they're not claimed, this one's weird. It has a website, but it's not. They didn't claim their Google thing. And home about contact. Okay, so this doesn't tell us. And again, this is not a optimally run facility, which is what we want. We want the guy who's tired. We want. I mean, we'll buy optimally run ones, no question. But so in turn, so all I'm saying is Oneonta or markets like this, this is sort of one way to get self storage leads. Is hey, you know, this is clearly a mom and pop operation. If it was a professional operation, and not just a U-Haul, it would have a website. It would have an active website where you can buy from it. Yada yada yada. They'd be managing their Google thing. So this is probably some local guy, and maybe that local guy's willing to let the thing go. Also, by the way, this is what's known as a C-class facility in the self-storage unit. It's fine. Nothing wrong with it. I'll buy it all day long. The units look nice. But it's gravel. It's a little overgrown. Doesn't look like there's much fencing or security. Lots of things we can do to improve the facility. So anyway, I didn't want to drag through that too much. But yeah, so any questions? I mean, I know we talked quite a bit yesterday. Any questions you wanted to go over or anything else?
So this is just you would Google account, like you would put a area in Google and then put self storage and just do everything you just said to do. There's like no specific like website dedicated towards self storage, like it is with like PropStream or Best Leads, because I've tried both and I'm like it just doesn't. I don't know if it doesn't really pick up self storage like that, because even when I put like mini storage warehouse, it doesn't really show nothing as precise as this. So would it just be better to just Google it like this and just do what you said, or is there like
Yeah, I mean,
a way to
is there
do
like
it?
what?
Is there like
So
a
okay,
soft?
so
Yeah.
okay, so we do have we. Okay. So, sorry, the phone kept going. The system kept coming out. Switching. By the way, I'm just
Uh,
think facility will sleep better.
Hold on, it had cut out.
The way to do it that we're having conversations a company called kind of like what they're claiming are how you find.
Hold on, it's like going in and out. Uh-oh.